Hi, it's John at C Nation, and you are tuned into the Kush Journals. Join me and my occasional guests each weekday as we discuss all things cannabis in the great state of Utah. Hey, it's John at C Nation, and you are tuned in to the Kush Journals. Say hey, Jules.
Hey, Jules. Every time. I know. It's kind of annoying sometimes, right? Just kidding. Hey, guys.
It never annoys me.
That's good.
So, hey, we got to speak with Derek Smith from Resource Innovation Institute, and golly.
It was interesting to me.
It was. That guy, he was so friendly, so knowledgeable, and so passionate about what he's doing. And it seems like an uphill battle.
Yes, it does. It seems like an extreme uphill battle.
People give a lot of lip service to energy efficiencies and water efficiencies and that employees should be treated better and on and on and on. But few really put their money where their mouth is on these issues. It was great. Their whole piece of real estate at the show was awesome. Of course, they shared it with legal services. So we kind of did the interview all in one, starting with Amy Anderle. And then we just kind of morphed into Derek's component of this.
His exhibit was amazing.
It was. And we took pictures. We'll put the pictures up. We couldn't do it any justice at all. And we'll link everybody to their website where they have all of that stuff up there. Plus their Power Score software that will allow facilities to evaluate themselves, their energy efficiencies, their setup, and judge for themselves whether they're efficient or not. Listeners, you'll hear in this interview, kind of the simultaneous simplicity and complexity of what RII is doing in the world of cannabis. I think you'll probably agree with me after you listen to this that it's probably worthwhile for us to see if we can put something together with Derek by way of maybe a little mini series of conversations with him, because there's so much, and it's all segmented. Labor and electricity, it's all segmented out what they're trying to do. And I think it would be really worthwhile to be able to speak with him on each of those things and really drill down into some details. So before I start rambling on about things that don't make any sense before this interview, let's cut to that. And we just kind of take it right up with Derek where we roughly ended with Amy. So it's kind of just a hot start here, but give a listen. I hope you enjoyed as much as we did. Derek, tell us about the mission of RII, what the goal is, how you're helping cannabis grows be more environmentally friendly, at least through electricity consumption. Tell us about RII.
So the mission of Resource Innovation Institute is to advance resource efficiency to fuel the cannabis economy. What we see is that every new market that comes online, within 2 years, the wholesale price hits a certain threshold where it becomes a massive pain point in the market, and consolidation starts happening, closures, and there are implications all the way to the consumer. And the other thing we know about this industry is that it largely existed in undercover, right? Sure. And so there is very little data about what makes an efficient facility in terms of energy consumption, in terms of water usage, in terms of waste that's generated, in terms of carbon impact. So we're capturing data on resource consumption in a variety of different cultivation settings, in a variety of different climate zones, states, buildings, so that we can build a data set that can inform, if you're cultivating in this way, in this location, this is the most efficient way to do it. We're starting with energy right now, and that's what the Cannabis Power Score tool is doing. It's an opportunity for growers to submit their energy consumption and technologies and techniques that they're using in their facilities through a 15 to 20 minute survey, and then they get an instant comparative rating of their performance on grams produced per kilowatt hours consumed and kilowatt hours consumed per square foot of flowering canopy, so that they at least know, information's the first place, right? Like first step. I know that I'm not doing as well as my peers. Right. I know that there's price pressure in the market that's not going away. I want to survive. Then they have to take the next step, which is knowing what the right technology or technique to implement. Right now, if you talk to growers, every one of them will tell you they know how to grow the best.
Of course, don't they?
I tried to grow and I sucked.
At least you're honest.
Yeah, I'll be honest.
She was not the best.
The reality is nobody knows how to do this because of the history of the industry. There's such little data, such little best practice sharing.
Right.
Things are kind of validated through word of mouth.
Absolutely.
But there's no real independent verification of manufacturer claims or actual performance of a facility. So a consumer that's trying to buy from a responsible producer, Amy's doing great things on organic and labor. We're complementing that on energy, water, carbon, and waste, so that the consumer can ultimately know that this cultivator that I'm buying from is doing things in a smart way and an efficient way with resources.
Yeah, hey, let me ask you a question that's maybe neither here nor there in terms of what's going on, but you talked about different locales and different marketplaces, different electricity companies, different utilities, all these types of things. Are there more gains to be had in a place like Phoenix or Las Vegas? Or are there more gains to be had in Anchorage, Alaska? Does any of that matter at all when you're looking at where to gain efficiencies in electricity use?
The temperature outside and the environmental conditions around whatever cultivation environment there is are absolutely critical to driving resource use. So the answer is yes, it does matter, but the deeper answer is we don't know how to be most efficient in Arizona. We do know that it's very different to be efficient in Arizona than in Portland, Oregon, or Anchorage, in a warehouse in Massachusetts versus an outdoor farm in Humboldt. Very different resource impacts, and so the recipe for what is efficient in that location is unknown. And it can only be verified through a large data set that is objectively reviewing resource use and environmental impact. So we're, as a nonprofit, which is pretty rare in this industry, we are connecting all the dots between the growing community, the policymakers who are trying to figure out how to regulate this industry so that it is not really taxing the energy grid, the utility companies who are trying to figure out how much energy do these facilities actually use. We know it's a lot, but how do we create incentives that will actually drive their efficiency up while not negatively impacting the production? And so playing that unbiased data aggregation role that will inform all those market actors so that we can have good policy, we can have appropriate utility incentives, we can help manufacturers do R&D so that they are making technology that helps cultivators make better decisions. And also we're putting a spotlight on the growers that are figuring out how to just do different little techniques in their facilities. They're vertical stacking, right? So they can reduce the kilowatt hours per square foot, as an example.
Are you seeing many grow operations out there, grow facilities, doing anything other than the grid? Anybody got solar panels up, turbines, storing that energy, or are they all relying still on the grid and don't care?
It's small numbers. There's definitely some solar. There's increasing interest. I wish there was more. There can be more. There should be more. The utility companies are not going out to growers very often and trying to help them be most efficient. The growers are, basically have 2-year investment pressure that is forcing them to make the quickest decision to get to market and get as much of a return as possible, and figuring out how to do a power purchase agreement with an independent solar company is like not on their short list, right?
Sure.
In that environment.
We get that.
So we're connecting the ones that want to find out those resources with those resources, and then we're putting a spotlight on the leaders while we're building the data and building the capacity and the wherewithal to be able to have standards and then ultimately a label that can say this grower is doing it right.
I think it's nice having a best practices association. You put that sticker in your window or on your packaging or anything saying we're compliant, we're best practices.
Well, and that's the thing. Most industries have a best practices effort, right? That is stocked with leaders in the industry, and there's a free flow of information and transparency on data. And again, because of the history of the industry and because it's just so hyper competitive now, people tend to think that these issues are trade secrets, but the industry will mature and evolve pretty quickly to see that it's in everybody's interest to advance the entire industry, right?
Well, you get enough CFOs in there, right? And they'll find the pennies.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm standing here looking at a lot of beautiful pictures. They'll link people to the website and these things. Will you tell us what's up here, what's going on, best to worst, worst to best?
What we're looking at here is the results of the Cannabis Power Score surveys of 4 different farms in 4 different locations: Seattle, Humboldt, Southern Oregon, and Denver. And we're looking at essentially 4 entirely different ways of cultivating cannabis.
Okay.
And then the electricity impact of each of those 4 ways of growing. So what we've got is very efficient LED indoor facility in Seattle that's scoring very high on kilowatt hours per square foot, grams produced per kilowatt hour consumed, all the way to a very inefficient facility in Denver that is also doing indoor production, but essentially acting like a basement in the late 90s.
I was going to say, those don't look like LEDs. That's old school growing lights. Yes. There, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You still see that everywhere, the 1,000 waters, or are people really getting that they can
that's
do this?
That's still a baseline.
The standard, yeah.
It's evolving. If you're using 1,000-watt bulbs in early stages of cultivation, your economics are not going to be working very long.
Okay.
LED penetration in the flowering stage, the final stage of cultivation, is still pretty low, single digits. So there's a lot of progress that can be made. There's a lot of pressure on facilities to, as you just heard from Amy, to right-size their cost structure with the wholesale price that's being driven into the market because of all the competition and the supply that's out there. But you look at this outdoor farm in Humboldt, which doesn't do any indoor cultivation in any stage of the operation. So a lot of outdoor producers, though they are flowering outdoors, they are still using indoor environments with artificial lighting or a lot of HVAC in the drying and curing phase at the end of the post-harvest process. This farm is scoring perfectly on our power score, essentially not using electricity. They're planting from seed. Every stage of cultivation is outside, and they even do the drying and curing off-site. They're doing dry farming, which is they're basically only using the water that's coming naturally. Now that's right. That's appropriate for that environment, and not even Humboldt, but that specific location.
Like I say, they've been doing it for a day or 2 up there, haven't they?
Yeah.
They kind of got a handle on it.
Yeah, and so we can look to that and learn from that region, but also know that that's not available in Massachusetts, and it wouldn't be available in Utah, and patients need medicine. And we have a state-by-state patchwork. And so if we are going to get patient medicine, and it's going to be done most efficiently in terms of resource impact, we can help them do that in Utah, right? We can help them do that in Massachusetts.
Derek, do you want to walk us through your fundraiser here on the other side?
So we are now entering the sustainability experience at the MJBizCon NEXT conference in New Orleans. MJBiz, who puts on this show, determines at this mid-year show what are the emerging issues in the industry, and they have decided as a journalistic endeavor that sustainability and energy use are emerging issues in the industry that the industry should be paying attention to. So they contributed the floor space and said, bring sustainability to life. And they helped us connect with these partners, and we partnered together as 3 different organizations to create an interactive exhibit on sustainability. Essentially, you're walking through 7 different environmental impacts or societal impacts that are resident in any cultivation environment. Energy, systems, water, waste, methods, labor, materials. We're describing how energy is used, why it's important, and some key points about how you can use less energy, how you can be more efficient with your energy. So we have people walking through this tunnel, learning, and the idea is that they are being transformed as they go through this tunnel, and they're having their own experience about what sustainability means to them, and they're hopefully receiving some eye-opening tips on what sustainability can mean to the industry and what it can look like. That we can actually create, as an industry, a model enterprise of sustainability.
It's such an interesting word, sustainability, and I'll share with you a little bit my idea of sustainability, and you can point out all the deficiencies in that, and I think that I'm probably really representative of what I think sustainability might be. I'll give you a real-world example in my home in Salt Lake City. I raise koi fish. I use that water to grow plants, and I eat those plants. It's a completely enclosed aquaponic system. The fish fertilize the water fertilizes the plants. It is roughly sustainable. I have very little water loss. I grow all sorts of great things in these barrels all over my yard all summer long. When I think about sustainability, I think about something like that, this closed system that kind of returns on itself. We're in the process of identifying solar panels that we want to throw up so that the pumps we use in our water might be able to be, that it might just be its own self-contained system. I call that sustainability, and perhaps on my little micro level it is. Is that sustainability in this industry? I mean, maybe that's just a wonky question and it doesn't lead anywhere, but...
So, I've been working on sustainability for more than 20 years. I believe I was the first person in a corporate setting to have the word sustainability in my title, at least in the U.S. retail world.
That's awesome.
1999.
Wow, for sure you had to be first.
And I don't use the term that much. To me, sustainability is one of those terms that it means everything and nothing at the same time.
Right.
Resilience is kind of the newer version of that. So what we talk about resource efficiency. That's what we're measuring. That's what we're trying to advance. You know, I think oftentimes sustainability gets conflated with environmental...
I just did that.
Yeah. You didn't mention anything about labor.
Nope.
You didn't mention anything about...
Right.
How are people being treated? A real issue in this industry is social equity and correcting the wrongs of the war on drugs, which unfairly targeted people of color. If we are to be sustainable as an industry, in my view, not only you have to be dealing with environmental issues, but we have to ensure that not just diversity happens, but that people of color have access to the business opportunities and the ownership and have a financial stake. And I think we need to figure that out as society. And so we could be as green as we want.
Right, yeah.
And I would argue we would not be sustainable.
Well, that's a fair point. And yeah, that's just it. Gosh, Derek, you have so much education to do. Some of this stuff just blows right past labor. How is labor? That's such an important issue. It is. Amy spoke about it a little bit, and this is room for so many wins in this industry. We can nail that. We can nail that. We can nail that.
Well, that gets me excited, right? I've never seen a bigger opportunity to have a positive impact on climate change, and that's what drives me. That's why I get up every morning. That's why we're starting with electricity and focusing on energy. I have never seen a greater need and a greater speed for figuring that out, right? This is an industry that is already almost a $10 billion industry, and it's still relatively isolated in terms of where it's legally available.
That's true.
I mean, the sky is the limit for writing the future of the industry. And how often does an industry come along where the infrastructure is basically all getting established at the same time? You have the opportunity for a policy playbook that hasn't been written yet, right? You have the opportunity to establish best practices and take leaps and bounds over other industries that are painfully working at incremental levels, right? We can take giant steps in this industry because there's such little infrastructure set up yet.
Do you concede well, I was about to call it a fact, and maybe it's not a fact, that only a certain percentage of the industry this is going to resonate with, they're going to jump in with both feet and really dig in, and they're going to be the best practices model, and a lot of the rest of the industry just really won't care. They're going to go about their business as usual, and that's just the way it is. I mean, you can't save the world, I suppose, but a small section of it you can probably save, right? Do you think this is a large industry, do you think you're roughly talking to a small audience, but a small audience that's very serious about these issues right here?
I think you see that an organic consumer is a relatively small and growing part of the food world.
Right.
I think if you look at an issue like resource efficiency, it's in everybody's interest to figure that out, right? And every consumer will resonate with that. But set aside the consumers. Every business has to figure out, in this industry, has to figure out how to cut their costs, do it quickly, maximize profitability, or they're not going to be around.
It's nice having an approach to this industry that both has some altruism to it, but also has some bottom line implications. You're a very wealthy billionaire that funds all this, right?
Talk to my wife. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's important. When you talk about this 2-year window, roughly are you suggesting that companies get to this 2-year mark and they can't seem to figure out how to lower a single other cost and they're stuck there on their price point? Or what happens at 2 years?
The wholesale price just hits a certain threshold.
Gotcha. In a new
you're
market.
operating above that on a cost per pound.
I gotcha.
You're literally trying to generate enough revenue to overcome your costs, but you can't, because your cost per pound is higher than the wholesale price.
No, I mean, we've done this for years at home, 68 degrees on the thermostat in the winter and 72 in the summer, all in a bid to what? Keep more dollars in our pocket.
Yeah.
But this doesn't translate to some, maybe it's because they just have so stinking much money, no one cares. I don't really know, but it seems like people we do all this stuff at home as consumers, as individuals. Well, those of us that do.
Yeah, those of us that do.
But even that doesn't always just translate anyway.
Well, I mean, the things that we do at home that we think are saving a ton, the reality is if you're flying in a jet everywhere and you're driving to go buy your organic produce, your health may be improved, but you may not be helping the planet overall.
Right. Well, that's probably true.
Yeah. And let's be real, we're not doing this for the planet. We're doing this for people. The planet's going to be fine.
Yeah,
right?
It will be.
And I really can't stand the term environmentally friendly or we got to save the planet. That's
kind of
ridiculous.
Played out.
The
planet will save itself.
We're trying to save humanity.
Amen. I think your mission, your goal of doing this for people, that it shines through. It shows through exactly. That's who you're doing this for. So you did mention you're not a fabulously wealthy billionaire who's self-funding this. You're a nonprofit. You rely on donations. Obviously, you've got some. Nonprofits can always use more money all the time. Where and how can people donate?
ResourceInnovation.org is our website. People can join as a member. They can support what we're doing. Ultimately, those resources will help consumers know that they are buying from cannabis producers that are efficient with our resources that affect us all.
And I saw that on your website last night, and I almost joined. I wasn't sure, and I stopped. It wasn't clear to me if I had to be a facility to join. So anybody can come and plunk that $250 or that $5,000.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to make that really clear.
The resources will be put to very good use.
Man,
we have a system that is leveraging foundation resources, utility dollars, government dollars, industry dollars, and the more dollars we can bring in from a different variety of sources, the more we can do good work.
Well, that's awesome. Derek, thank you so much.
So that was Derek Smith, the founder and CEO of Resource Innovations Institute. And do you see what I mean now about we may need to get him back on?
Yes, he's very fascinating. I learned a lot. His exhibit was amazing. It was made out of cardboard. He had some seats that were made out of cardboard. It was an awesome experience to go through it.
Those seats were awesome. I asked them if they felt like they could hold me. I carry more weight than I wish I did right now. And he said probably so. So I sat down on them a little gingerly. But sure enough, this was thick corrugated cardboard, but their whole piece of property at the expo was made from cardboard, and it was awesome. You started looking at it and you realize, wow, this is like a pergola or something I'd have built in my backyard, We need to have many more conversations with Derek Smith because the industry deserves to know, and particularly this industry that's about to come online in Utah.
Like, being in the industry, why wouldn't you want to be a part of this?
Absolutely. When you know that you're going to be up against price competition, wherever you find those efficiencies is where you're going to be able to lower your prices and
beat the black market.
Absolutely. Beat every market, the black market especially. So I want to thank Derek. I want to thank you, Jules. It was a great time. It was a great interview. Of course, everyone at Grasslands for helping us with this, getting it set up. It was terrific. I had a great time. Derek Smith, founder and CEO of Resource Innovation Institute. Thank you very much for your time.
It was a pleasure. Jules. See you guys.
Bye. Kush Journals is a copyrighted broadcast of the South American Gold Corporation. We appreciate your likes and shares on social media, including Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.